Hi everyone, my name's Lou Sims and I'm super excited to be here today. I've been over the last 18 months to a year designing a range of stamps that could be used to cover lots of different genres. I wanted them to cover card making, mixed media, art journaling. I also wanted them to cover things that I like to do, which is I like to doodle, create mandalas, and lots of different ways like that. So it's been a long time coming, but I just wanted it to be that stamp set that you could do anything with. You could pick up and do a card, but the next time you could pick up and make a mandala, which is what we're going to use today. So we're going to use the stamps to make mandala designs with. So I'm going to make a mix, or I'm going to use a mix, should I be more correct, of all the different smaller stamps and some of the larger stamps. So I'm going to take elements from this one, which is called Painted Mixings. So I've got like little heart. I've got this shape here, which could be another heart, or it could be a butterfly. I've got this shape here, which is a great filler piece. So I can use those. So that's Painted Mixings. I've then got Hanging Around. And on here, we've got this beautiful little design here, which is, you can add to all your, for a mandala, it fills a lot of space. But I've got smaller flowers, smaller leaves, stars, and another set of leaves as well. And this one is the surround stamp set, and this is the main one we're going to do for the body of the shape. So we've got all these different circles which can nest inside each other. We've got two little flower doodles which go either side. I've got this design here, which can be a really great filler piece. I've got the leaves. So there's lots of different ways there, and I've got this like little dot there which can be a berry or added extra detail. Then we've got Gather Together. Now Gather Together, everything is circular, as you can see. I love circles. But we've got elements here that are filler pieces. So we could fill inside, fill gaps that we've got in our mandalas. We've got arches here with the designs on, which are also can create extra pieces as well. The dot, which if you use lots of different coloured inks on, creates, an interesting focal point or even a starter point. And then just some additional elements. So these here, although coloured green, could easily be petals. So they could be lots of different shapes. Finally, we've got Pattern Parade, and I want to take some of these sort of elements from Pattern Parade and use them to create lots of different designs. I've got a flower that if I cut in half, it can then help change the way that the mandala looks. So we've got all of those different stamp designs. So I'm going to be picking them from different ones. I'm going to try and remember to tell you which ones I'm picking from. Because sometimes when I get into the creative process, that's not my best thing. I must admit, I just picked stamps. But I will try my hardest. So I'm going to put all these away and we'll get started. Right, I've begun by cutting myself a square of white card. This is 20 centimetres by 20 centimetres. I've done it for two reasons. One, it fits inside the camera aperture absolutely perfectly. And two, a square shape when you're doing a mandala is sometimes a lot easier than a rectangular, because it's going to go off and blend out to the sides, but we're going to have a go with both. So like I said, this then could turn out to go on a card front. So if you wanted to send a nice 8x8 card, this would fit perfectly. I always try and keep measurements that are, if I need to draw any grid lines on, that are easy to find halfway points. So for me, a 20 by 20, I know halfway is 10. If I did 21, I've got to sit there and go, oh, 10 and a half. Right, so what I'm just going to do is, now for me, I just start where I like to start, but for some people, I appreciate that that's just a little bit trickier. So all I'm going to do is I'm just going to draw some grid lines. And I'm just going from corner to corner. Let's just move my ink pad out the way. And my stamps. And I'm just going to go corner to corner. Now, I apologise if my head gets in the way. It's just that sometimes you need to look over your work to see where it is. Right. Okay, so we've got that going there. And then I want to do lines down the middle. Now I can measure this and go 10 centimetres, but if I'm being honest, I don't. I'll just put my ruler, edge of my ruler, so it's flat here against the card, so I know it's a straight edge, and then I can just go straight down the middle. I'm just going to move those out the way. and do the same again here. Right, I'm sorry, I'm going to have to turn this around so I can see what I'm doing, so I don't put my head in the way. Apologies. So all I'm doing is just lining up the ruler so it's straight along the edge of the card and going there. So I've just given myself some grid lines to work from. Now, regarding inks, I'm going to use a Versafine Clair, but I'm going to say that you use the ink pad that works for how you envisage this to be coloured at a later date. So if you wanted to use your alcohol inks and you've got Memento, use a Memento. I'm going to use watercolours, so you could use an archival or a Versafine Clair. Or if you're not sure how you're going to colour it and you've got a hybrid ink pad, use a hybrid ink pad. Right, so let's get started. So I'm going to start with one of the circles from the surround stamp set. And I'm going to try and be good and keep myself clean. Now the circles are circles, but they've got hand-drawn elements in it, so they're not going to be perfect, if that makes sense. So I've got that as my starting point. I'm going to move you out of the way. I'm just going to put my lid back on there because I've got a terrible habit of putting my hand in the lid. And then what I've done is I've just created myself some masks. You don't have to use masks if you don't want to. It's just that sometimes I'll use a mask because it helps me, then I can just go wherever I want to go. Now you can line all the bits up if you want to, but if it doesn't come out 100%, just line up where the main diamond parts are, because it's not really going to matter 100%. Well, she says hopefully. Now, I've taken the heart from the Painted Mixings stamp set. I'm just going to, let's move my lid somewhere safe. And why I wanted to create the mask is, on the stamp here, you've got this long part there. So these could be leaves. I don't actually want the long part. What I want to do is I just want the shape to look like it's a heart. And I'm just going to use my grid line just to put it in place, as you can see there. Now I'm going to have to rotate mine because otherwise I'm not going to be able to see what I'm doing. Now I'm using a nice juicy new ink pad, so I might have to dry as I go along so I don't make too many smudgings. If you do make a smudging, don't worry, make it part of your design at a later point with either your colouring, or carry on making your pattern and use it as and keep it as a guide for when you want to make other patterns. So I'm just going to rotate this so I can actually see where I'm putting it. Now this is still wet, so what I am going to do is I'm just going to grab a piece of card and put it on the top so I don't smudge that one underneath. I treated myself to a new ink pad and I forgot how juicy ink pads are when they start out. Now, if doing these lines are just a little bit too, too much, too dark and stand out, and you've got an older ink pad, why don't you do your first pattern with that? Because it'd be a lighter outline showing. And then if you make a mistake, it doesn't matter because it doesn't really matter lighter or darker. Now that sounds like a whole load of waffle. What I'm trying to say is, if it's lighter outlines and you make a mistake, it doesn't stand out too much to you. It's because I'm concentrating and trying to do stuff. Now, so I've done those 4 points, and what I want to do now is I just want to do this point here. Apologies if my head gets in the way. It's just when I'm concentrating and I'm thinking about what I want to do next, I forget that the camera's there. So I've got that design going round. So now I'm just rotating it so it's like a diamond shape. I hope you can still see. And this is a scrap piece of card. And I've got ink on my block. So I'm just going to clean that off because I don't want it to transfer onto the actual pattern itself. So the grid line, I'm going to say ish because it's not perfect. I'm using the center point of the line there on the grid line. So what we're doing here now is we're just creating this pattern and building it up bit by bit by bit. So we'll put that there. Now I'm being naughty and using my ink. I'm going like that straight to the ink pad. But when you do that, you need to be careful because one, I put it on my thumb, which then can transfer, and one, I can get it onto the actual block itself, and I don't want to do that. It's just that I'm just creating and I don't think sometimes. Okay, so that's going to go there. Let's move that bit of spare card out of the way. So we've got, that's our starting part, and we've just used 2 of the stamp designs. So I'm just cleaning my stamp off. I'm trying to be good and do that. So, you know, if I want to use another colour ink. So we've got this as our starting point. I'm going to give it a quick blast with my heat gun, only because I know my ink pad, like I said, is juicy and new. So I'm just going to give it a quick blast. Right, so we've got that as our, you know, and our actual starting point. I'm going to bring this stamp back in again, which was the first circle we used from the Surround stamp set. And let's be good and actually use your ink pad how you're meant to, and then you won't get your fingers in it. And what I'm going to do is I want to join the circles here. Now I'm going to start lower down so I can actually see what I'm doing rather than starting higher up. And I'm just trying to work out whether I'm going to touch things or... So this is where the stamps, you've got the little diamond shape, so it's up to you whether you use them to touch the like the petal designs we've got or not. So I'm just going to put it there. Sorry if my head got in the way there. So I've got that one there, and I'm just going to rotate it. And let's just put the ink on properly. And I've used the little diamond spots to go roughly, I'm going to say ish, because there's no, because they're hand-drawn elements, there's going to be no rigid preciseness, if that makes sense. So we've got those there. And as you can see, I'm just building this pattern up as we go along. And I'm going to do the same again down here. Now I could have used the slightly bigger circle and I would get a totally different look again. There we go. So I'm going to carry on building that up. And once it's done, so I will probably fast forward at this point so you can see me build it up, and then we'll come back and do the next part. Okay, so we've got our basic design down, and this is now where I will build and add, you know, other layers, different things of interest. Now, we could, I'm just going to show you some ideas. I could take the next stamp up from this size here, and I could carry on the pattern and build it up in between, as you can see, and that would create another pattern, and that's where then the parts from the gather together could join those 2 elements together. So we've got a different way of doing it there. I'm going to use the larger one, and I'm going to go, I can fit in there and join the dots up if I wanted to, and go in between and create a different pattern for each one, or I can come on the edge here and carry on. So there's lots of different ways you can use the stamps to create your pattern. And I had a plan in my head, but now I'm going to change it, because why not? And this is what I will do a lot of. I will start an idea and go, oh, I've changed it. So let's just put you there. I've got that there. Right, I'm going to rotate it. And I'm going to do, let's have a think. Let's put you near enough there. Sorry about that noise. I keep saying it in every video. I keep forgetting that I've got it on. It's like my air freshener thingy. So let's do the same again. Now, if you don't put the stamp going the same direction, you know, it doesn't matter when it's your design. You do the design that works for you. I appreciate that probably me rotating it is a little bit irritating as well, but I don't want to pretend I work in a different way than I do normally, and I would rotate my work because why smudge it? So I now got, as you can see, this pattern building here. So we've got, so you can see going out, it's going out and out and out and out, which is absolutely wonderful. But I've also got enough space that I can add another one in here as well if I want to, or I can create something totally different. I think we're going to go and do the circles in between each one, and then we can look at how we're going to fill up with the different patterns and create lots of different elements within all these areas. So I'm going to do that, and I will probably, well, I won't probably, I will fast forward. Okay, so we've got all of these elements now building up, and that's going to be my basic shape, my basic design. And now this is the fun part for me. This is where I can create something a little bit different and start adding in lots of different elements to create my patterns. So one of the things I am going to bring in is one of the stamps from the circling around, and, oh sorry, from the hanging around. There's me. And it's this little one here. And sorry, my stamp block, let's, if I put it on a, not a non-dirty bit, that would be a good idea. So be good, Louise, and use your stamp the right way around. Use my full name when I'm telling myself off. So what I want to do is I want to put this one here, so it's sitting in between the two. So it sits there like that, and I'm just going to do another one. Sorry, I'm going to turn it so I can see what I'm doing. So it sits there. Again, apologies if my head gets in the way. So I've got that one now nestled in between the two. And it doesn't have to be 100% precise. I mean, that one isn't precise, that one is. You know, when you start adding colour, any of the areas that you're not happy with suddenly change. Right, so there we go. And then the final one here. So I've now got that pattern. So we've now, with the smaller element, building up that pattern. Sorry, I'm just cleaning my stamps in between. I'm trying to get into a good habit there. So we've got this design from there. And then what I want to do is start bringing in different other elements. Now the dot, I know it's a dot and everybody goes it's a dot, but you know, it can be so much more as well. So I'm going to use it as a black dot for the outline, but you know, if you use it in lots of different colors, it changes the way it looks as well. So one of the things I want to do is I'm going to use it half and half and put it there. I'm just going to hold it down for a little bit longer because obviously it's got to go through my mask as well. So as you can see there. Oh, I've got ink on this because again, here we go. I am dreadful for that and I don't. So I'm going to do exactly the same with all the other gaps in here. See if I can do it again this time without putting ink on it. So I'm going to keep building that up bit by bit like that. Okay, so I've done that. Now I'm going to be really honest and say I should have blasted this because my ink has smudged here. Don't panic, because when you add your colour, as I said, you can hide some of these. You can go darker. You can make that your... So that point there where there's a little bit of smudging, I could suddenly make that my, you know, darker area. Don't start again. You know, just go with it. As I said, use it as a reference point. Like when you create this again, you know what patterns you're actually going to do and use. So, but I am going to give this a quick blast. So if I try and remember, it's like I said, it's because I've got a new ink pad. So let's give this a quick blast. Right, so we've got those dot there. I'm just going to bend the card back. And now, as I said, this is where the fun happens. This is where you bring a little bit of you into your design. And we've got so many different stamps from the stamp set. Now I'm going back to the surround stamp set, and we've got these little smaller florals, and they're brilliant because they've been designed, you know, that you can, you know, use them in lots of different ways, and you get one facing one direction and one facing another. So I'm just going to put, so I've got one here. I'm going to have to do this nearer to me because it's easier for me to see. So that now is going to sit there like that. So I'm going to do exactly the same on all the others. And if you might find that I will fast forward because obviously there is now 8 of them. And, you know, that's a lot to watch. Right, so that's that side done. So I'm now using the opposite stamp to fill the gap this direction. So as you can see, so it surrounds it. Again, if you don't get crisp edges, you know, don't worry. If you've got a black pen, go with it afterwards. You know, it doesn't... Enjoy the process, and there is always a fix. At the time, it might not feel like that way, but there is. Right, so I'm going to rotate that round, and I'm going to do exactly the same and fill up the other spaces. Right, so we've got that design going. So we're just going to keep, you know, building it up little by little until we get the design that we want. So this is where, like I said, a lot of the smaller elements come in and, you know, can create a little bit of fun. So I'm going to go back to the dot again and put it down there. And what I want to do is I'm going to put so there's a little bit of symmetry to the dot I've done there. I'm going to put another dot on there. Right, now I'm going to confess a lot of the reasons I'm making mistakes is because I'm being lazy and going to my ink pad. It will pick up extra ink, and that also causes the smudging. So I'm going to add a dot into each of those. Right, the dot's done. I'm going to keep it on a stamp block because I might use it. Now, I want to use one of the smaller leaf patterns, and that is also from the Surround, she says. Here it is. And let's get a smaller block. And what I'm doing now is this is where I'm filling in gaps. And I can now, because I've done the dot, I can then cover the stem, you know, straight away and put the leaf design in there. Now, if you prefer, and you know, if you have a smaller ink pad, just actually ink the leaves. That's when smaller ink pads come into their own. So I'm now going to add those smaller leaves there, and they're going to go and sit on top. So I'm going to do that now to all the other dots. Right, so we've got the dots going there, and then what I want to do is using from the Gather Together stamp set, and I want to use some of like these sort of ones here that we can add just some extra little detail to. So let's grab another block. I've got blocks everywhere. Oh, I've got a smaller one there. Okay, so I'm going to ink all of this for the moment. I've got the mask still in the centre until I work out what I want to do. So I could join those together and we create another pattern, which I actually think I'm going to do. So that now goes through there. So that now means I can use even less ink up. But I am going to clean my block. Can you see? Take the ink pad. If anything, take the ink pad to the stamp if nothing else from today. I don't want to pretend that I don't make mistakes because that's not true. Right, so we've got that little bit there. So all we're doing now with the smaller stamps is filling in our original patterns, and we're now adding all that little extra detail that we want to add. Now I'm making this look slower than it actually is. It's because I want to show off each step that I'm doing. But once you've worked out the pattern you want to do, it's amazing how quick you can suddenly create a pattern. Right, what I want to do now is I'm looking at all the different gaps I've got and where I can create additional pattern. And obviously we've got different stamps we can use. I've got this long one here, so that could go, you know, there and carry on the pattern along the pencil line. And, you know, you can split the design separately. I could add it here. I could go back to the smaller one and use that. So, you know, this is now where you come into it and the creativity you want to do with the different bits. Now, I've decided I'm not going to use that one. I'm being good and look, I'm cleaning up already. And I'm thinking of something else. So I'm playing with some ideas in my head at the moment. And I'm just thinking about the hanging around set. There is a butterfly image. And I didn't know whether the butterfly would fit in between each gap. Now, you're not going to see all of it, but it's in certain parts you're going to see more. And I'm going to try that. And this is what's the fun part now with the stamps, is that this is now a different idea to what I was originally going to do. So I'm going to put the butterfly in between the two gaps there. And that's going to stamp there. I'm just going to rotate it around. Sorry, I keep saying sorry if my head gets in the way, but it's because I'm trying to see what I'm doing. I'm just going to clean up a bit of the ink here. So I'm going to carry on now and build up the butterflies in between. Right, so there we go. We've got the butterfly added on. Now, if stamping off the edge of the page is something you don't always like to do, actually making your cardstock smaller and carrying the pattern on, is a great way to start. Now, I could take the butterflies and we could add another butterfly on there, but I think I won't at the moment. I could go back to this design and add this design on there. So this, like I said, this is where we can have fun and we can play around. Now, in the same hanging around stamp set, we've got this little one here. And I'm going to, I think, use a bit of this. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put it on so it sits on the line here, just to elongate that and bring the pattern out just a little bit more. So I'm going to do that to all the corners. So I'm just bringing out so that it's traveling out. And what I'm tempted to do is carry on with this design. Now, I have created a mask for that bigger one. Now, the only reason I'm thinking about putting a mask on it just gives me a few little options. So if I just put that there for the moment. As I said, if it doesn't line up perfectly, it doesn't matter as long as the main part of the triangles. So you can sit there and try and work it out. Oh, there we go. No, that doesn't. But as long as it covers the triangle part, it doesn't really matter. Now, I've got those points there, but I didn't know whether I'm going to carry on, but have them going bigger to smaller. And I think that's what I'm going to do. So I'm going to keep the same stamp, and all I'm doing now is filling up the white space. So I'm going to turn this towards me, and then this one is just going to come down here. So the mask really is just allowing me to create smaller to larger. And I've got that there. And I'm going to do the same again, the opposite side. So, right, so that's that there. And I'm just going to just pull up. Oh, sorry about that noise. Let's see if I can pull up the mask without getting the ink everywhere. There we go. So as you can see now, where I've put that design, it's filling up that gap. And I'm just going to do exactly the same here. And I said, if the mask doesn't fit perfectly, it doesn't really matter. All we're doing is just covering up the bulk of it. So then I've got a clear area here, and it looks like this design is exploding out. Right, so you can see the design is building up. Now, there is different areas here that I can put extra stamps in. I mean, I've got that little one that could sit there and go in from the surround set. We could carry on with the dots going in. But for me, what I would do now is I would go away and colour this, rub out the pencil lines, and I would go away and colour this. And then I can see if I needed to add, any extra detail. Also, even though we've stamped this out, you can add all your own, detail to it. Now, all I want to do, so I'm just grabbing a pair of thinner scissors, because I just want to lift that bit up. There we go. So now, as you can see, where I stamped those semicircles, there are some white gaps, but that doesn't bother me because that now means I'll go over with a black pen and fill those designs. So that is just one way of using the mirage of stamps that you can do, you know, to create a mandala sign. Right, so we've got that on a, you know, in that size, but what happens if we want to do it on like a DL card or make it a card front? So I'm going to keep this as my reference point, and that'll sit beside me. Where shall I sit you? I'll sit you over there. So I'm going to do exactly the same again, but this time I want to make a smaller design for, you know, like say if I want to make a card front. So this is the offcut that I did when I cut down my 20 by 20 piece. So I'm just going to put a diagonal line there, and I'm going to work out where I want another diagonal. Now these are not going to be true to size, but it's just a sort of different sort of starting point. So I'm just working out, this is where 21, so if I did 10.5. Now you don't have to be, you know, as precise as I'm being. Go with what you like to do. Right, so I've just created some grid lines and I gave up measuring. I'm going for what appeals to my eye, not necessarily, you know, what works, she says. Because half the, you know, making a design is going with what you like. Right, so let's have a play. So this, oh, I'll take my ink pad off. And I'm just going to put, as a starting point before, like I did before, put that in there. I'm just going to clean up the ink though, so it doesn't get everywhere. So we've got this as my starting point. And put you back. Let's grab the heart, which is from the painted mixings. And I'm going to put this back inside here. I might as well use the same mask up, mightn't I? Seem silly. And I'm just going to follow this line here. So that one's going to go there. And that one's going to go there. Apologies if my head gets in the way. Now I might find that I have to change the design slightly because I'm not using, right, I haven't put enough ink on because I'm dabbing it that way, but that's fine because all I'll do is I'll go over with a black micron pen. This is me playing now. So the reason I haven't got all the ink on, as you can see, is I'm not watching. What I was doing that and not making sure the stamp was fully inked. Right, so if I put that there, so that we've got that one sitting there like that. Amazing what happens when you put, you know, take your stamp to the ink. Okay, so that's now sitting there like this, and I can, like I said, I would take a black micron pen and carry on building. So now let's change it again. So this one, let's put you over there, the stamp, and we're going to have a bit of a play. Let me have a think what we can do. As I said, this is where I'm going a little bit off, you know, what I was planning to do, but I just wanted to show that you could do that. So we've got this little leaf design or little petal, you know, whatever you wanted it, you know, to be. And I'm just going to put that so it goes there. And it's just sitting in between each of the hearts. So my initial line here, I'm now not using because of the way the heart design goes all the way around. And that's cool as well. So let's just do that there. I'm just cleaning up as I go along. And let's put you back. And let's have a think what we could do next. So let's go back to the surround and have a look at this one. Would this now work? Yeah. So I keep going wrong, so just take. So all I'm doing is putting this one on here. And building up my pattern. Now, what I should have done is move those closer together, but you know what? It doesn't actually matter. So we've got that going there. Let's just clean this stamp like that. And put you back. And then what I think I'm going to do is going to the gather together. I'm going to use some of the lines we've got. So I've got that one could be a longer one going out. Let's go for the shorter one just to start with, because I can make something longer, not necessarily shorter. So I'm just going to put that so it comes out like that. And it goes like that. Right, so this one now is going to go through those two circles, but you know what? Does it matter? No, not really. And then I can put a little bit on the edge here. So all I'm doing is making the design go together. So I've got those bits going together like that, because even though I've got this like this, don't forget we can cut this down. We can make this a smaller size. So I've got that one there. So now let's have a think. What can I do next? You know, when you go, what can I do next? I'm going to grab, I think, from the hanging around set. I think what I might do is grab this one. So I can put it so it sits there like that. Or I could turn it round and it sits there like that. I think I'm going to go this way. And I'm just going to line it up. So I'm doing it, I'm going to do the whole lines first. And I've got that little bit there. I only need a little bit of ink, even though I'm inking all of it. And then we've got that little bit here. So we've got those designs going there. I'm just going to clean the ink bits away. And this stamp away. And we've got the butterfly from the hanging around stamp set as well. So I'm trying to think, shall we have it so it's, so we're like, let's change it now. Okay, so we're not making necessarily a mandala, we're actually making something a little bit different. So I've got that there. So we've got that now growing like that. So look at me being good cleaning stamps as I go along. And I'm going to go back to one of the original designs I did, which is, I'm seeing whether, sorry, I'm flicking through stamps here, working out which one I think I want. I think I'm going to go back to the surround. And what I was thinking of, where we did the little lines here, of doing exactly the same again. And I can add those in. But I'm going to just, I think I'm going to just do it so it's the dots showing like that, rather than everything. Now, you could, if you do this in coloured inks, it will take on a totally different look to doing it in the black and white. So we've got that bit there. So what I do need to do quickly though is I'm just going to blast that dry. Okay, I think what I'm going to do is I need to fill in some of these gaps, but I'm not sure how I want to do it. I'm going to take the dot, as we've done before, in the surround, and I'm not sure. I'm going to go and put a dot there for the moment. And put one in the centre there. We've got that there, so I could actually bring the dots in again and go half and half, but I don't think I will this time. So let's just put you there. And then I've got the leaf. Let's get a block. And let's just put the, I'm just doing the leaf by itself. So I'm taking elements from the first mandala we created and bringing it into this mandala. Right, we've got this little flower head design from the hanging, no, not from the hanging around, from the painted mixings. And I'm just going to stamp a little bit of it up, not all of it. And I just want to put it in between the gap there. I want something there because I don't know why, but I do. And again, it's personal preference. It's nothing to do that that gap needs to be there. It's, I am a more is more person. I do struggle with going, you know, that is enough, you know, you didn't really need to add any more to it, but I do struggle with going to stop. Right, so we've got that there. I'm just going to clean this stamp. Right, so that's my design. And that now could fit onto a DL card. It could be a smaller panel in your art journal. You know, so it could be so many different things. So we've gone from creating that bigger mandala and then taking the elements from it to this mandala. So I could, where I've got the flower elements, I could add some of the little flower elements there, you know, to go around the stamps. But I quite like it that the butterflies are floating off. I might even stamp one or two more butterflies so they're floating off, but we'll see. So now it's just a case of rubbing out the pencil lines and then bringing in the colour, how you want to bring the colour in for your different designs. I hope that just gives you one way of just using the stamps to create mandala designs. Obviously, the designs are limitless. And then just creating, I just wanted to show that from here, instead of using black outlines, if I suddenly use coloured ink pads, you get a totally different look altogether using the same sort of stamps. So have a play with your black and white outlines and then bring in your coloured inks. Can't wait to see what you make and the mandalas. Please do tag me. I'd love it if you tagged me. Because I think we inspire each other in lots of different ways. I'm going to go away and colour these. I will put a picture up of what they look like when they're coloured. And I'll probably either add them to the blog or I'll try and add them to this video. If you've enjoyed the video, love it if you became a subscriber. For YouTube, though, if you could add a comment or a like. That, I don't know why, but that is the more important thing. Watch this space. I do have lots more ideas to share with you using all the different stamps that I have got in the collection. Thanks ever so much for watching. Take care and see you soon.